All right. Well, good evening. Sorry for the late start. Do want to welcome you to our city council meeting for October 17th. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and start with roll call, please. So, Ms. Diane?
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Silva. Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas-Walker.
Here.
And Mayor Gardenas.
Perfect. Present.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect and present.
Right, yeah.
Perfectly present.
Yeah, perfectly present. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Mr. Tracy to go ahead and lead us, and that will be followed by our invocation by Mrs. Sanders.
And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sanders?
I want to thank the mayor for providing me an opportunity to once again offer a prayer to my colleagues and to the members of the audience. Our Heavenly Father, we come with humble hearts and bowed heads. We come in no shape, form, or fashion, but we come acknowledging you as with all power. We also come, Lord, asking special blessings on those in attendance. Give the council the wisdom, knowledge, and guidance as they deliberate the issues that are so important to this community. Lord, we pray for those men and women who may be on the battlefield. We pray for those who have not shelter. We pray for those who may not have food. And we ask that you would guide us so that we can be the type of Christian you would want us to be, so that we can help those who are less fortunate than we. This is our prayer in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. All right. Moving right along, and I'll ask our city attorney to report out on closed session today.
There's no reportable action, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead. Yes, and we will be going back to closed session. Once we adjourn from public session, we'll be going back into closed session this evening. With that being said, I would go ahead and move down to our agenda, and we're going to go ahead and move down to, or actually before I start the agenda, I'm going to have Ms. Diane just read some instructions regarding public comment.
This is a public meeting. If there's an item on the agenda on which you wish to be heard, you're asked to complete a blue speaker slip and submit it to the city clerk prior to the start of the meeting. When the item is announced and your name is called by the mayor, please step to the podium and state your name for the record. Unless the mayor extends the time, there is a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. If you wish to address the council, successor agency to the redevelopment agency, or the successor housing agency concerning any other matter not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment portion of the agenda. Any information provided on the speaker slip is voluntary and will be public record.
Thank you, Ms. Diane. And with that being said, we're going to move right along to item number 1 under scheduled public comment. And we have our very own Mrs. Sanders. Great to see you, and also Mr. Sanders. So I think we have some exciting news here.
Mr. Mayor, and to members of the City Council, as you know, I was here on September sharing with you that I was willing to make a contribution of $2,000 on behalf of Sanders and the campaign committee for Sanders. As a result of that, I do have a check, and I also brought something else that I'd like to present. It's actually $153.26. So we have to count every penny. But before I actually present this, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just give a brief overview of the number of distinguished individuals that I have served with over the last number of years.
Yes, ma'am.
From 1984 to 2015. Harry Wiseman, Tony Beltran, the late Harry Wiseman and the late Tony Beltran, Jack Dunham, Randy Horton, Matt Gonzalez, David Dillon, Hank Kuiper, Cheryl Walker, Jack Terrazas, Pam Muzzy, Alex Cardenas, Efrain Silva, Ben Solomon, John Edney, Jean Brister, and Ray Castillo, Rosanna Bayan Moore. So I felt quite pleased and honored to have had the opportunity to serve with all of these individuals who I think are distinguished themselves because they were willing to give of themselves and provide public service. So with that, I have a check here for you for $2,153.26. And my husband have this other check that he want to present. Shall I give it to you, Mr. Mayor? Shall I give it to the city manager? Should I give it to the city clerk?
Let me ask you, is it made out to me?
No, sir. No. It's made out to the city of El Centro.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to probably meet you down there and take a picture. I'm going to go ahead and ask my colleagues to comment. I really wanted to, first of all, just say thank you. But I'll go ahead and maybe start with Councilmember Jackson on just any comments before we go down and take a picture with this check.
I'm looking forward to all the memorabilia that you've collected over the years that will be part of the display at the library. I think that you've certainly had a great long career that has spanned several decades, and over those years you've accumulated quite a bit of memorabilia that stands for what you've accomplished and what you've done for the city of El Centro. So I'm looking forward to that display and how it comes out.
Thank you.
Councilmember Silva?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that as you gave us the convocation, I couldn't help but remember all the years that we served together, and what a delightful colleague you are and continue to be. And always your emphasis has been the citizens of El Centro, the citizens of our community. And throughout your long and distinguished career, professional and political careers, you've touched many lives. And you should feel good, and I feel good saying this, that because of you, El Centro is a much better place than before. And so thank you so much for all your years of service. You've been an inspiration, you've been a role model for me, and I really thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Nicely stated. Mayor Pro Tem?
So, Sedalia, always a slice of heaven to see you. And I've just been very fortunate, as Mr. Silva said, to have the honor of knowing you and to see your handiwork in so many aspects of not only the city's physical shape and what we've been able to accomplish under your guidance and leadership and strategic vision, but I think as equally important on a regional, statewide, and national level, how influential you have been, and truly what a remarkable career that you've had. And you're still a rock star in so many circles. I love traveling to the League of California Cities, and they still talk about, President Sedalia Sanders, and I said, you're right.
Thank you.
She is remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmembers Garcia?
Well, thank you very much from the city of El Centro, and your career has been amazing. Your dedication and service to the city has been unmatched. Thank you again. I echo all the comments from the council. You are very, very well known. You're very, very active, and it's been wonderful what you've done to the city. I'm looking very forward to seeing the memorabilia as well.
Thank you.
So I'll start with Mr. Sanders. First of all, I want to thank you for being so patient and thankful and supportive of such a great and wonderful wife, Mrs. Sanders. She's obviously been an inspiration to all of us. And one thing that I always have appreciated regarding Mrs. Sanders is her commitment and respect for decorum. And being able to come in on the council, and she was able to kind of give me a quick orientation on the importance of decorum. So I am a much better person when it comes to decorum, and I want to thank you for that, Mrs. Sanders. So with that being said, I guess we're going to go ahead and join you down there for a picture and pick up our money. So
Each of you have stated things that touched me. So I want to just thank you for those kind and generous words. And I know that the city's in good hands. I have no doubt about that. So I congratulate each of you for your outstanding willingness to continue to be of service to this community.
thank you. All right. I'm asking Miss Piedra to join us too. Come on,
Get the check away from them quickly.
Yes, ma'am, you are. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Right.
Good night.
All right, what a great way to start the evening. We're going to go ahead and move down to our next item, which is a presentation from our cultural center at the old post office, and we have the honor of having our consul here. Yes, sir.
Good evening, and first of all, I want to thank the City of El Centro's Council for extending the invite to us, the representation of the Mexican federal government in Imperial County, in order to address a very important matter. As we agreed a year ago to sign an initiative through a memorandum of understanding in order to foster and promote cultural activities between Baja California and Imperial County. We've done that with the effort, the support of crucial people, very important people to us. In particular, the City Council, its mayor, Mr. Efrain Silva, Mrs. Marcela Miranda, and of course, Marcela Piedra, who have been essential to this effort. We signed a memorandum of understanding in order to foster cultural activities in Imperial County. And I think that we have set the principles right and that we have achieved a lot. That's the reason why we're here. We're here to ask your understanding and your kind support in order to sign a MOU in the coming weeks, that is in a month's time, in order to have another year of cultural promotion at the venue of the old post office pavilion in El Centro. Throughout these months, the old post office has welcomed a lot of young people, a lot of teachers, instructors, so-called, who have given courses in order to foster handcrafts, to foster activities, dancing courses amongst the young and the elderly, in order to make that beautiful venue come alive again. Actually, the old post office has also hosted a very important event that will take place in about a month's time. And that is, no, I'm talking about a week's time. And that is the Dia de los Muertos celebration. Next Friday, there will be an event at the Canon Theater at the Southwest High School. And on the 27th, there will be another event at the Old Post Office Pavilion doing a great performance of Dia de los Muertos that has become one of the most important cultural activities here in the Valley. So for that matter, we will submit to you a report of activities. I don't want to hassle you through all the points that we have achieved, but I think that we have made a very good match. The city of El Centro and Mexicali are sister cities. This is one of the tools to make that agreement come alive. But we need the human resource to be in place. And that is why we thank you so much for extending us the invitation to be before you tonight, and to make that point. We are, of course, persuaded that no community has a present or future without cultural life. We think that although people strive here under very tough conditions to make it through the day, through their lives, we are not forgetting the importance of cultural and culturally nurturing our folks. So today, we are formally asking the council to consider and eventually approve that in a month's time, we appear before you again and bring that memorandum of understanding so that Mayor Cardenas and the rest of the city council will agree to sign it for the next 12 months ahead. So I want to thank you again. You will have that report on your computers. We've done very good performances. We have, in a way, strengthened the ties between Mexicali and El Centro. We've had authorities visit here, most recently as the Consulate of Mexico in Calexico, as well as the other 49 consulates of Mexico throughout the United States, have been involved in activities related to public health. We inaugurated what we dub the Semana Binacional de Salud, the Binational Health Week, which is a big lie because it's not binational, it's not a weekly performance, it's not a weekly activity, but it's done throughout a month. And countries such as not only the US, as the sea of that host of very varied activities, but also countries like Canada, most of Central America, Colombia, and Venezuela are involved in also assessing the importance of and addressing the importance of public health in our communities. So as we look into the matters of public health, we also look with ambition into the matters of the cultural projection and the strength of this great community of El Centro. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As always, you're so gracious and just just a breath of fresh air to our community. So I do want to thank you for being here. I just don't know if my colleagues have any questions or comments before I let you loose, okay? Yes, sir. Would you like to start, Mr. Silver?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Consul, thank you so much for being here. And I want you to know that I truly value our friendship, our relationship, not just at a personal level, but with the city of El Centro. And you have done so much for our communities in terms of helping our Mexican nationals, helping our community, promoting culture. It is incredible. So at a personal level, I want you to know that I really think very, very highly of you and what you have done for our citizens. And this could not have happened without your leadership and your guidance. I echo your comments in terms of the success of our initiative last year in terms of the number of the young people and community members that attended the workshops. I did share with my colleagues last June, I think it was, when I attended the end of year celebration, and how thrilling and what a pleasure it was to see all the performances, all the hard work of all the people that went to the workshops. It was just so gratifying. So I had a smile on my face the entire night watching, especially the little ones dancing and singing and so on. Also, related to the Dia de los Muertos, we started a couple of weeks ago. We've had a couple of workshops, and last year attendance was a little thin. It was the first time that we did those workshops, but this year we're getting 60 to 70 people show up to the workshops, and I look forward to Friday and our event at Southwest High School. I think it's going to be amazing. I look forward to the following Friday and closing out the Dia de los Muertos celebrations. Unfortunately, we couldn't do the grito this year, but I'm hoping that with maybe additional resources, we're able to bring that back. And I look forward to continuing working with you and continuing providing our services to our community and also your friendship.
Thank you, Efrain, for your comments. It comes to my mind that Dia de los Muertos, in a way, is an evocation of our present day. I mean, the United States has suffered a lot with the hurricanes that have hit Texas, Florida, and other parts of your country. We are also stunned by the damage caused by the wildfires in California. But also, Mexico had its taste of bitterness with the tremor that happened on the 19th of September, 32 years after a 19th of September terrible quake in the Mexico City area. It took the life of hundreds of people. It destroyed the wealth of millions of folks in Mexico. It has called upon the government to make additional efforts, which are hard to get, in order to lighten the burden of the folks that have been damaged and affected by the quake, by the earthquake. So that makes us think about the meaning of Dia de los Muertos. Dia de los Muertos is what we call a celebration, but it's mostly a reflection upon how frail we are and how can we enrich our lives by symbolizing, by making a lot of gestures and expressions of the symbolic sense of life and death. So we invite you, we extend you a cordial invitation to come over to the old pavilion, to the old post office pavilion on the 27th, and of course at the Jimmy Cannon Theater this coming Friday. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you to your lovely wife for being
Yes, sir.
here
Thank you
and
for
always
being
being
here.
supportive in everything you've done to help us with our city. Thank you very much.
And we will excuse ourselves with your permission.
Do we get a couple of comments?
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just,
No, absolutely.
I also wanted to recognize your beautiful wife. I mean, both of you are so gracious and so wonderful, and we so appreciate what you've brought to our community and to the Imperial Valley. I think it's so important for us to celebrate our relationship with Mexico, especially in this day of craziness. But I want to say that what I appreciate, in addition to the two of you, is that you've brought a beautiful building to life. I mean, the old post office pavilion, I mean, it's just, it's renewed, and it's wonderful to see what you've been able to do, bringing that beautiful building to life, and also the joy that you've brought to our community. So I want to thank both of you for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Villegas Walker. It's been an honor, and it's been a common effort. I mean, it's not only a matter of, the right decisions, the sense of leadership. It's basically the addition of all the efforts that come together. We've seen talent. We've seen the interest of people who, in the peak of the summer season here in the Valley, are willing to walk over to the old post office and do a little dancing and this and that. So it's amazing. And most definitely, as I said when I first saw you here at the City Council C, welcome back, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you guys have and one more comment. You're not done yet, sir. You're very popular. One more comment. Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah. Carlos, I don't, everything's kind of been said, but I just want to say last year, one of the highlights of my mayorship was the signing of the Sister City Agreement with Mexico. And I know that couldn't have been done without a lot of cooperation and a lot of work on your behalf to make that happen, and also our colleague, Mr. Silva. But, you know, I don't think this area has ever had a council that has been so engaged in bringing cities and bringing communities together as much as you and your wife have contributed to our valley. So I just want to thank you. I think, you know, last year was a great year. We moved forward with a lot of things that really opened the doors for things like the old post office to bring the cultural center together. And I was reflecting on some of the pictures that came up on the first slide, and I remember that was an exciting time for me. And to do that, and then Mr. Silva and I don't know if anybody else, we traveled to Mexicali and did the signing there, and it was just such, I know Marcella was with us, and it was just such a, really, I think, a historic time for our city, and I was very much appreciative to be a part of that as the mayor, but I want to thank you because I know that couldn't have been done without your efforts in really bringing our two cities together and bringing actually our two countries together. So thank you very much, Carlos.
Correct, Jason. It's really for me, thank you for your leadership, mostly in the signing of the MOU last year. But again, it's a common effort, and people are talking about it. For instance, people don't realize, but for Friday's performance, we are doing our best in order to bring in 30-some individuals from the Mexicali Valley into Imperial Valley who have their, you know, proper documentation, their passport in hand, but do not bear visas. So we rely on trust at the border. And American authorities, basically CBP, is providing the appropriate help so that these folks can come over for a day, do their performance, and go back. So we consider that this interaction on a daily basis makes people talk about the importance of what are the common advantages and complementarities that Imperial and Mexicali valleys have. We think a lot about that. Again, it's not personal. If it were to be personal, I would say, and I want to call your attention on that. Recently, the Mexican Department of State had an exam, a general exam for promoting young diplomats. And let me tell you that I am honored to let you know that Deputy Consul Hector Huerta was promoted to the rank of minister. Which means that Hector is not only one step away from becoming a Mexican ambassador in whichever country he's appointed, but also that he's getting a better pay. So, good news for everybody. So Hector has done a lot. Hector is here with us. He's been all the time, although he has a huge family to look after. But it's everybody's effort. And we call on you to also spread the word around here in El Centro, because things are going on, things are happening, and the old post office is coming alive more and more every day. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you again. All right. I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you sit down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Yes, you are excused, sir. All right. Thank you again. Have safe travels.
Bye.
All right. Moving down to item number 3 under scheduled public comment, we have Mr. Tracy from American Legion. Yes,
Good
sir.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and the community. Tracy Rasco, 225 Wake Avenue. I'm going to talk to you about something today is the American Legion. As we all know, there's a lot of changes going on in our country right now, have been for a while. Fortunately, a lot of people here, unfortunately, a lot of people here are not fully aware of what the American Legion does. So I'm going to go through as quick as possible the presentation. These are the 4 pillars of the American Legion. The American Legion was founded in 1919. We're getting ready to celebrate our 100-year anniversary. 4 pillars are like a chair. If one leg breaks, we fall. These are the same 4 pillars we've had since 1919. Veterans, youth, national defense, and Americanism. We are 2.1 million members of the American Legion. Nearly 1 million are auxiliary members. And then we have about 360,000 sons of the American Legion. And then we also have Legion Riders, which is not included on that number. Altogether, we're over 3 million total across the country. Our community footprint, we have 13,500 posts. That's more than Starbucks in our country. A little tidbit of information. We're also in North America, all over North America, Caribbean, Europe, Latin America, and Asia. Gentleman here is actually my colleague and fellow veteran, is from, his affiliation is out of France, which you'll see more about here in a minute. And the Post is out of China. So the American Legion is founded in 1919 by a bunch of war-beaten soldiers over almost 100 years ago in France. We actually developed the flag code that we know today. The Legion created it. We also formed a VA as we know it today. Consolidated multiple groups and created our current VA. We created the GI Bill. Actually, we wrote the GI Bill. The original GI Bill was called the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944. And the reason why it was created, because a lot of the war-beaten military soldiers came back. I mean, you think about it, over 80 million people died in that war in the world. That's a lot of people. Back in those days, a lot of the people back home were working in factories creating equipment so we could fight wars. So now all of a sudden the war is over, those that survived came back, and we had to revitalize our country. So that's one of the reasons why the GI Bill was written, to help create a revitalization of America. It was created and wrote by our member, our actually national commander, Henry Comrie, in 1944. And some other information, the new GI Bill is actually named after the American Legion national commander that wrote it, the original Readjustment Act, the Comrie, Harry W. Comrie, Veterans Educational Assistance Act, which was signed by President just recently. We also were the ones that worked with, actually created the funds and joined with Columbia University, to do the research on Agent Orange. My father was a sufferer from Agent Orange. Many Vietnam veterans suffered from Agent Orange. But it wasn't, thanks to this research, we were able to find out that there was a problem with Agent Orange and all that were contacted with it, and therefore helped receive some care and benefits. Now, that's all great, but what about today? Today, we're a different type of Legion. We still have the same 4 pillars: Americanism, children and youth, national security, and veterans, of course. But we have a younger group now. We also have a smaller group. As our military downsized, we have less veterans. So we still have Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation. There's more survivors today from our wars that are suffering from loss of limbs and TBI, brain issues, and PTSD, and things like that. Well, one of the things that we do is we have over 750,000 volunteers that actually work like our VSO, as we know it here for the county. We have 750,000 of them. Of course, we do millions of volunteer hours each year, just within the county. I'll get into that in a little bit. Veterans Education Employment, we have over 1,000 job fairs for veterans each year. Children and youth, we actually have someone, a council member, that is a recipient of one of our programs, which puts him right up there with some of our graduates of Boys State Some of them have become attorneys. Some of them have become presidents. President Bill Clinton, a graduate of Boise State. Our illustrious Jason Jackson, graduate of Boise State. Boise State and many other programs in our children and youth are programs like that we send, as an example of Boise State, we send 14 boys here in the county to Sacramento, and they learn citizenship and how to be government. They learn government. We also do the same with girls. Our post here, post 25, we send 3 because we take care of Imperial and El Centro. That's our service area. So we send 3 every year. Hopefully someday we'll also get some people like Jason up there as city council members down the road. Or like one of my faves, Michael Jordan. He's also a graduate of Boise State. I'm from North Carolina, big Target fan. So we also do Boy Scouts. We sponsor Boy Scouts Troop. One of the things that we did for Boy Scout Troop here locally had 0 members. We revitalized it. Started 4 years ago. They had 0 members. Today they have over 30 boys in their Boy Scout Troop. National security. I was a recipient when I was in the military. While I was sailing over the seas, the American Legion in Huntsville, Alabama, sent care packages for us. We actually loaded them up on the ship before we even left. I didn't even know it. Most of us didn't know it. And then we had one of our 350 men dressed up as Santa Claus and gave us these care packages. I was blessed that when we came back, it was a very tough tour. We actually lost a sailor. Excuse me. We lost a sailor. We lost a sailor from a bombing in Spain while we were over there on the 27th of December. It was great to have that care package. Even though we got it on Christmas, it was something from home that we all got to use and play games with together to help us. One of the things we do here at our post is we actually send care packages. When I received those care packages from Alabama, I got to go and represent the ship. We were stationed in Charleston and go and show appreciation to the Huntsville, Alabama post. That was great. They treated me like family. They actually literally opened their house to me. And we actually packed up over hundreds of care packages for other ships that were getting ready to be deployed. Our post here, we actually started doing that too. Smaller level, but we're getting there. More volunteers, the more we can do. Patriotic. As I said, we wrote the flag code. We can do other presentations related for children to educate them about America, about the flag, about patriotism. I don't know if you noticed the shirt that I have on right now. This is the El Centro Patriotic Planning Committee. This started with myself and Councilmember Jackson kind of before Flag Day, June 14th, which we hosted we combined, collaborated together with the city and the American Legion to host the very first Flag Day ceremony out here at the memorial. Hundreds of people attended, and we also properly disposed of about 300 flags. Look forward to building that up even more. That's part of what this is about. Promoting patriotism, something that we need now more than ever. I'm sure you would all agree. Crisis control. As the gentleman stated before, we got a lot going on in our country. We've actually given over $8 million of direct financial assistance to American Legion members in crisis, and we also give money to veterans that qualify for the American Legion and their children in times of crisis. So as you can see, I actually moved here. I relocated here from Houston. So I was touched by, I had people that were homeless in Houston that I personally know. We were there. We were there giving help. I may not have been there physically, but our fellow brothers and sisters were there giving help. And I'm sure we're over in Puerto Rico helping too. This is temporary financial assistance for children, veterans. Preservation of memories, we provide flags to service members that pass away overseas. And that's the flag that you may see when they come home. This is the Legion Riders. I'm a former Legion Rider. I hope to develop a chapter here. The Legion Riders are members of the American Legion that we're motorcycle enthusiasts. And we raise a lot of money for millions of dollars every year for children of our lost veterans and their families. I'm the District 30th Commander. A lot of people don't know, the American Legion here, we have 8 posts in Imperial County. Blythe is the one, the oddball in Riverside County, okay? My job as District Commander, I'm a volunteer for the Department of California. So I oversee these posts. I'm the one that talks and helps things go up. Resolutions that we propose, they go up from the post to the state, and then we take it all the way to DC. That's how it works. So we have 55 departments in the American Legion. I'm part of the Department of California. There's the list of the names of the posts. I'm very proud of Post 25. That happens to be where I belong. Post 25, we help with local assistance of active duty veterans. And one of the things about that is we don't publicize that. We don't say, look at what we did for this veteran and their family. And the reason why we don't do that is to honor those children of that veteran and that veteran or that active duty person. Because we've had that happen and just recently issue with someone that had cancer and is married. It happened 3 years ago. The veteran, the National Guard member died, but we actually were able to help. And it happened near Christmas and provide Santa and clothing and all other stuff. But out of respect to the families, we don't talk about that. We don't publicize it in the newspaper. We also, at 25, like I said, we send packages to the troops. We send supplies to VA for patients in the VA medical centers. We partner with the community. I mentioned about that, including the United Way. We partner with them. Proud to say that our membership over the past 5 years has been over 100%. Last year, 135%. What do we do? Fellowship. Offer camaraderie to veterans. It's a home. It's our second home. It's great to have a home. I'm sure you all would agree. 2% of Americans have ever served our country that are alive today. It's great to have a home, a place they can go to. Some of us veterans, well, we can talk the talk, and you know, he's a Marine, I'm a sailor and soldier. We can give each other crap left and right. But at the end of the day, we're a force. We're together. Okay, it's a little different. That's part of the fellowship part. That's the part that's hard to capture. That's why we have these 13,500 posts that are still alive today. We have Friday night steak. Anybody here ever eat our Friday night steak? Okay. That's what people remember about the American Legion. And I moved, like I said, I relocated here 5 years ago from Houston. I'm in the wind power business. So I've been to Smallville, USA, and I've been to, you know, the 4th largest city in the United States. It's always great to be part of an organization you can call home. This is our home. People here, they think about it, oh yeah, Legion, Friday night steaks. And then sometimes I hear, oh yeah, drunk old people, drunk old veterans. That's what I used to think too. I'm going to be quite honest. When I was active duty, I used to say the same thing. A bunch of drunk old veterans getting out there and complaining, to put it nicely. And that is true. That is true. However, as you could see from the things that maybe you didn't know, we do a lot. And we're a force. We're actually the largest veterans organization in the country. We are the largest veterans organization in the state. We are the largest veterans organization in the city. I'm sorry, the county and the city. Thanks to our membership, the community, and our willingness to give. That's the biggie, you know. Most of us Some of us in Vietnam, they didn't volunteer. They got drafted. But the rest have volunteered. We wouldn't have our freedoms today if it wasn't for volunteers. So we're used to giving. So we're all volunteer organization. To qualify to join the Legion, you have to be a wartime veteran. I served part of my period during the peacetime of the Cold War, which is supposedly peacetime, but you have to be officially a member of served at least one day during wartime. And you can also be a family member, which a lot of people seem to forget sometimes. You know, being a veteran, my father served 30 years. My mother served, I served, we all sacrifice. So we all know that the family serves too, which is why the Legion is a family organization. Anyway, the reason why I came here tonight was to talk to you and introduce you to the American Legion. As we revitalize the Post 25 here in El Centro, my goal is to revitalize the district. So I'll be speaking to other cities like tonight and all over at different venues across our county in an attempt to revitalize our communities to help us become more aware of veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to thank both of you. First of all, thank you for your service, then also providing us an orientation on the American Legion. I know that's very informative when you give an overview on the American Legion, so I do appreciate it. And also want to just thank you for your leadership here. You've done a tremendous job in bringing a lot of awareness, and just you being here today and sharing that information. I want to thank you both for being here. I'm just going to ask our colleagues if they have any quick comments. But again, on behalf of myself and the council, I do want to thank you for being here and sharing that presentation. Any other comments from my colleagues?
I just think it's remarkable that the volunteerism and the amount of good that you've been able to do, not only for the community, but throughout the country. So thank you very much.
And I just want to say that, first, thank you for your service and what you have done for our country. Also, thank you for this presentation and the education, because I did not know what the American Legion was about. I thought it was steaks and karaoke.
That too.
That too.
No offense,
Yeah.
most people
Yeah.
do think that,
Yeah.
and that's what, I want to help change.
No, so this is
Thank you.
really, really informative, and I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've had many conversations with Tracy that my time has spanned a long time with this Legion, because when I was in the Scouts, we used to go to the Legion, pick up the flags, and then go put the flags up on the grave sites at Evergreen Cemetery. And so I did that 30 years ago. And so I was very happy to see that they adopted my old troop and have revitalized that troop. And now those kids are the ones out there putting the flags out and representing Boy Scouts down here. And so, and we've come together and we've started working on different projects for El Centro, and we're working on one right now for Veterans Day, and that there'll be some news to come from that pretty soon. But I think that, there's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of great things here in the city, and bringing you guys on as a partner to work with, and the times that I've been at the Legion, and I've partaken in many of the steak dinners, and and sat there and talked to some of the guys, and there's so many people that are willing to give their time and to help out.
Right.
There's just never been anybody to ask. And so I think things like our Patriotic Committee has given that venue that opportunity for some of those members to get involved and really do some things to improve our quality of life here in El Centro. So I'm very much looking forward to, obviously Veterans Day is our next big thing that we're doing, but I think we have many projects in the works that we've talked about, and I look forward to more and more of the veterans getting involved, and other people throughout the Valley and El Centro coming together and working with a lot of the old vets and having some really good events here in El Centro. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'd just like to close with, now is the time. Patriotism needs to improve across our country. We see things going on, sad moments across our country. Let's not let it happen here. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thanks again. And so we're going to go ahead and move down to our consent agenda, and we have items 4 through number 10. Does any member of the council wish to pull anything or from the public? Seeing that there's none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is items 4 through 10. We have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Villegas Walker, a second from Mr. Silva. We'll go ahead and vote, and that carries 5-0. We're going to go ahead and move down to unfinished business, 11 and 12. I do have some public speaker slips, and we just have 2 orders of business, and then I'll take those public comments. And I know that we have folks from Direct Auto Plaza here, so we'll just take care of this real quick, and then we'll move right along. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Leticia Salcido to come on up and provide us some good news on our quarterly budget review. As she gets ready, just for the audience, we typically do a semi-annual budget review, but I did ask staff and with the support of my colleagues that be done quarterly. So I do want to thank Ms. Salcido for preparing this. This is a lot of work. And I want to thank you, Ms. Salcido, for preparing this on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, council members. Welcome to our quarterly budget review for fiscal year 2018. This review is for the first quarter, which would be July, August, and September, with 25% of the year elapsed, and we'll be looking at revenues and expenditures. With regards to revenues, we show revenues at 8%. We have received $2.4 million. Normally, as of September, in a perfect world, you would have received 25% of your revenues. At this point in time, it's not a perfect world. Most of the revenues for the city come in during the second half of the year. Even during our traditional mid-year budget review, revenues normally at that point in time are 29%, 30%. So that is traditional, as most of the revenues come in during the second half of the year.
So this doesn't give you any, like,
No.
doesn't set your hair on fire or anything?
No,
Okay.
exactly, and that's the point I'm trying to make, that, for example, during the mid-year with 6 months of the year elapsed, at that point in time, traditionally, it's been 29%, 30% of the total amount budgeted for the year, because most of the major revenue sources come in during the second half of the year. Okay. So we'll start with sales tax. The first the first 4 are the major revenues for the city. Sales tax being the number 1. We have received 10% of the amount budgeted for the year. That's $1.1 million. And again, for example, for sales tax, the only amount reflected here is the amount received in September, which is 2 months behind. That's the July revenues. So that's only 1 month. For motor vehicle license fee, we budgeted $4 million. This revenue normally comes in half in January, half in June. So therefore, it shows a 0 as of September. Property taxes, $5,000. This is just minimal. The major revenues come in during December and April for property taxes. For TOT, transient occupancy tax, we have received $185,000. That's 11% of the amount budgeted. That only reflects 2 months. The amount for September, the TOT owners have until October to pay. So it really reflects only 2 months. Other taxes, which would be business license, franchise, cable and gas, we have received $113,000 or 15% of the amount budgeted. Again, this is another revenue source. For example, the cable franchise we normally get in October for the first quarter, and then the gas we get 1 payment a year, and that's in April. Building-related fees, we have received 69,000, 11% of the amount budgeted. We have one major development, the Lotus Ranch subdivision, which we have estimated two phases will start right before the end of the year. And most of the revenues are from that category. Service charges, we have received 242,000, which is 60% of the amount budgeted. But we had one major increase here from environmental impact fees. I think the amount was 120,000. But again, we have the revenue from EIRs, but we also have the expenditure, so that's a wash. For grants and other agencies, we have received only 3,000. One of the major revenue sources in this category is the residual redistribution from the redevelopment agency, previous redevelopment agency. That normally comes in December. That's about $500,000. And then the revenues from resource officer and crossing guards that they come normally in October. Again, nothing to panic. It's just we have received only 3,000, but most of the major revenue source in that category come in later on in the year. For fines, other revenues, transfers in, those are the pass-throughs that come in December and April, and then the solid waste allocation, which we do on a quarterly basis, and the first one being in October for the quarter of September. So we only show revenues 8% or 600,000 of the amount budgeted. The other item in this category is the $4 million for Crookshank. We're not showing any of the revenues coming in, as there hasn't been any expenditures for that project yet.
And Ms. Salcido, the Measure P sales tax, is that being put into a separate sales tax fund?
Yes, the Measure
Okay.
P revenues are in a separate fund. This is
Okay.
just the general fund, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So overall, we have received 8% of the revenues we budgeted for, 9% without Crookshank. But again, nothing to panic, as most of the revenues come in during the second half of the year.
Ms. Salcido, in regards to any Stone Garden or asset forfeiture money, can you explain a little bit about when that comes in, or are we not expecting? I can't recall what the amount was in terms of Stone Garden, or what was budgeted in terms of any incoming revenue from Stone Garden.
Those revenues are not reflected in the general fund. They're in their own separate fund. All right, okay. And they're sporadic. There's no fixed schedule with regards to those revenues. With regards to expenditures, overall were at 20%, and then without Crookshank, we're at 24%. Individual, which is in line with where we should be at with 25% of the year elapsed. With regards to individually, by department, for the general government, which includes your HR, finance, council, city manager, and so on, we have spent $1.4 million out of the $3.2 million allocated, which is 46% of the budget. However, within this category, we have some major payments that we make at the beginning of the year. For example, liability insurance, $1.2 million was paid in July, and then the LAFCO payment was $161,000 again at the first 2 months of the fiscal year. Traditionally, this is high during the first half of the year. For police, the second line on this slide, they have spent 19% of the amount allocated to them, which is $2 million out of the $10 million. The reason this category is low at 19% is, one of the reasons is we allocated $500,000 for capital. Purchases have not yet been made, so the percentage is lower. Supplies and services, we have only spent 14%. With regards to salaries and benefits, we have spent 22% of the budget. There is some salary savings, however, those savings are being absorbed by the increase in overtime. And we'll go over overtime in a separate slide. With regards to fire, We have spent 21% of the amount allocated. That's $1.4 million out of the 6.9. And again, the lower percentage, number one, capital that hasn't been purchased, and number two, some salary savings. However, some of those salary savings, again, within this division, are being absorbed by the increase in overtime. Public Works, we have spent 5% of the amount allocated. This one category has includes the Crookshank project, which is $4 million. Without the Crookshank project, we're at 18%. And again, some supplies and services that have not been purchased, they will be purchased later on in the year, lowering the amount of percent spent year to date. Within engineering, we have spent 19% of the amount budgeted. That's $85,000. We have some salary savings due to a vacant position. And then supplies and services, it's only at 12%. Some of the services, supplies being purchased later on in the year, same situation. For building, we have spent 21% of their budget. And again, supplies and services is a category that lowers the percentage. With regards to planning, we have spent 40%, which is above the guideline that we have of 25% of the year has elapsed. We should be at 25%. However, this is a category where the environmental impact reports are being expensed, and that's money that came in, and we're spending it out, so it's a wash. This line item is okay. With regards to parks, we have spent 18%. Again, supplies and services is lower. The other categories are on target. Recreation, 22%, more in line with where we should be at this point in time. Library, we have spent 24%. And then economic development at 14%. Again, category supplies and services is what's bringing a lot of these percentages down as those supplies and services are being purchased later on in the year. With regards to transfers out, $540,000. It includes the $40,000 originally allocated to special events, and then the $500,000 that was approved by council at the last council meeting for the stabilization fund, pension stabilization fund. The $500,000, we're still completing the documentation to be able to start that fund, that trust, and then the $40,000 will be transferred as the monies are needed by special events. Overall, we have spent 20% of the budget. Without Crookshank, that would be 24%. With regards to our fund balance for the general fund, we are starting the year with we started the year with $13.5 million. And as we approved, as was approved in the budget, we are taking $430,000 out of that for one-time capital expenditures. And then to that, I deducted the $587,000 in budget adjustments, year-to-date budget adjustments, the major one being the $500,000 for the pension trust. So overall, it is projected we'll be ending the year with $12.5 million in fund balance. Per our financial policy, we have designated all of it for the various potential liabilities, such as economic unknowns, leave liability, vehicle and major equipment replacement, Crookshank, and then $300,000 for revenue stabilization. So overall, we're projecting about $12.5 million by the end of the year. Now, one of the main reasons for the quarterly update was so that we could look at some budget issues such as overtime and then savings within the budget. At least that's what was planned when we approved the budget. So with regards to, I'm sorry, we have the budget adjustments, and those are it. So with regards to overtime, we'll start with the blue, the highlighted in blue, which is police. For fiscal year 2018, we budgeted $220,000. Out of $220,000, as of September, we have spent $65,946, which is 30% of the amount budgeted. We're over the 25% mark by $11,000, $10,922. With regards to fire, we budgeted 188,655. As of September of 30th, 2017, we have spent 136,000, which is 72% of the amount budgeted. We're over the 25% by 89,000.
But is any of that overtime for out-of-county strike force work that we will be reimbursed for? Do we have an understanding of about how much that is? I mean, what percentage? Because I think it's really important for us to understand that this is money that we're going to get back. So far, 36,000. So let's call it the actual year-to-date overtime is at $36,000? For strike team, okay.
So year-to-date, you're at 100 for in-house?
So Chief, do you agree that you're probably closer to 50% of your overtime for the fiscal year?
But then again, we have not received any of the monies from the strike team, so once we receive those,
Right, that'll be
those numbers
adjusted.
will be revised, yes.
But so I mean, even discounting the strike funds, without that, we're up about 50% expenditures, which kind of raises red flags, and that is obvious that at this rate, the 188 is not going to be sufficient
Right.
for the
correct.
remaining of the year. So what's the plan for that, either for the chief or for you?
Even even for at 300,000, which is the amount that we budgeted for last year, the amount the actual amount for the year was 565,000. So even with a higher allocation, that is not met. However, with regards to savings, so that's our expenditures. Those are our two major concerns there. With regards to savings, we have some salary savings this first quarter of the year. We have savings in the city manager's office, IT department, engineering, facility maintenance, police, fire, and finance. So those salary savings, the approximate amount is 400,000. So what I did here is I said, okay, we have 400,000. Let's deduct from that those budget adjustments that I mentioned before. It's three budget adjustments, not including the 500,000. And then let's deduct the amount of overtime that the police department has gone over the 25% mark. And let's deduct the amount that the fire department has gone over the 25% mark in overtime, the 90,000. So that leaves us with net savings of 211,000 as of September 30. The good and the bad.
So let me ask the chief. Can you come to the podium, please? So do we have some fundamental flaws in our estimation for
Yeah, can we go back
overtime?
to a slide or two? There, wait, that one. Yes.
What assumptions are we making that are incorrect?
Okay, so if you look at last year's overtime number, we were at 560, and that's coming in about where we've been coming in the last 4 to 5 years. We were given a number for overtime, and we kill that number every year. However, every year, we always end up under on total personnel cost. So what happens is that we have vacant positions, we hire people back to have people on the street to provide service, and then for having the positions vacant, that money balances it out. So actually, for the last 5 years, we've ended up under budget. I think last year we were like 4% under on total personnel costs. It's something that we track very closely because we know that we're going over. So, and that's kind of the situation that we're in here. In your monthly report this last month, I rolled out some additional information for where the overtime was going. One of the things is that if you look at our leave for the last 5 years, we spend $300,000 on leave coverage. So that's for negotiated benefits for vacation leave, comp time, sick leave, those types of things. So going down to 188, that would require either a staffing cut or a renegotiation of benefit, essentially.
Because the only way you can cover that leave is with overtime? I'm just trying to tie those two things together, Chief, because
Yeah,
I think we get the fact that the MOUs include
Right.
overtime. I mean, they include vacation and,
Yeah, at this point,
PTO.
yes, yeah, we have, well, pretty soon here, we'll have 12 people per shift. We have a minimum staffing standard of 10. So a person could be on vacation and it could be covered, but, it gets into a whole rank-specific thing at that point and stuff as well, so that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years, $300,000 a year approximately on just leave coverage. To cover Fair Labor Standards Act payments, that's about $45,000 a year. And that's just a cost of doing business kind of factor. The strike team stuff, yeah, we do get reimbursed. There is a pretty significant lag on that, which I have zero control over. We do get our paperwork turned around right away, but the state has their way of processing. But we do eventually get paid back for that. I think last year, the tune of $100,000.
Chief, your savings out of your regular salary budget, not
Yes.
overtime, but regular salary. So as those savings occur because you have vacancies, and so
Right.
therefore we're not spending that personnel cost? How
That-
many vacancies are there in the department?
Right now, there's 5 budgeted vacancies.
Okay. And are we recruiting?
Yeah, we're actually in the process. We're well along in the process. I would anticipate sometime beginning of January, we should be able to be through the process and fill some of those vacancies.
So is the necessity to backfill for those vacancies through overtime is what's creating the essence of the problem?
Mostly correct.
Okay. So if we are able to get fully staffed, then that would help.
That's not going to wipe away the overtime issue because of operational staffing needs. For example, we have 3 captains on duty. So when we're running 3 engines and a captain is gone, then that creates overtime. Whether we have 11 people on duty or 12 people on duty, that's going to create overtime in that position because of a lack of acting positions and such. So that's kind of, we've been talking about 2 squad versus 3 engine staffing models. That's where that discussion comes in.
Are we still having problems in terms of people leaving our department to other departments?
We haven't recently. It's something that we're discussing in the task force.
We did a 9-year review of everyone that's left both the police and fire department at the last task force meeting.
And how did the numbers for fire look?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I would say, I'd be.
So is it a significant issue from your perspective or no?
For turnover?
Uh-huh.
It's an ongoing issue, significant. I mean, we manage it by having eligibility list and keeping current with our recruitment processes and such. We do take advantage of hiring lags sometime in order to kind of balance some overtime budget gaps and that kind of thing. It's kind of the nature of the beast, and it's been that way since I can remember, since I came to work. I was telling Ms. Walker in the meeting that the year that I was hired, there were 13 firefighters hired that year, and there's only 3 of us that are left, and that was back since '90, and it's kind of we do become the training ground essentially, and people leave. Not everybody, but people leave. So
I think in general, and Edgar, you were there, and Terry, jump in. But some of the things that I remember and looking through the list, both for police and fire, but fire in particular, we kind of see retirements come in waves. So when you have your kind of like your more seasoned upper management team kind of go out at pretty much at the same time. I
Correct.
think that's happened a couple of times in the last few years. We see a lot of folks that seem to exit with less than 2 years of service.
Right.
We see a lot of people that either figure out that this was not their career choice. There's a few that we were okay with seeing them go, and then others that go on to other opportunities. But and that's why we're trying to think of ways. Again, the whole reason, or one of the strategies for the task force is to come up with retention and recruitment and retention strategies. And so one of the things that we need to look at is, why do people leave? When do they leave? And what are the drivers to maybe getting them to stay longer?
Well, if I can add to that, additionally, we're kind of putting some succession planning into this conversation as well, and that could have an impact on our overtime budget. One of the things that we're having a problem with now is people even, we did a recruitment for battalion chief in April of last year, and that was on schedule. That's every 2 years we run that recruitment. There was zero interest in the position. Nobody's chasing down the requirements for that position. Well, we've got the next wave is, 3 years away approximately, and we're going to lose a number of people in ranked positions and such. So we need to address that somehow. How are we going to make up for that? So that does, from an overtime perspective, create an issue, because when battalion chief is gone, we're not putting an acting person there. We have that issue with captains for the last two recruitments. Nobody passed the promotional exam. So, and that's how we get our people into the acting position. So now when a captain is gone, we don't have someone to bump into the role of acting, so it creates an overtime slot. So a lot of these pieces kind of work together, and, we are mindful of that, and that's why, we look at the personnel cost, if you will, together. Yes, we are killing the overtime budget. I'm the first to say it. I can come by my office, it's on my whiteboard. I can tell you exactly what we did the last 5 years on overtime, but I can also tell you what we did on total personnel costs.
Yeah, when your total budget is just shy of $7 million bucks, and you've got overtime of $188,000, I mean, the fact that you're able to manage to a budget or come in under budget by 4%, I think that at the end of the day, that's what we really need to be concerned about. But I think to Mr. Silva's point is we need to be more realistic in our budget numbers with regard to overtime, although I know that the reasons that we did it, so.
Yeah, and I just want to echo Mayor Pro Tem's comment, Chief, and I want to just be sure that, that we are giving him praise for managing his budget. And I know I've been in your office. I see the amount of work and the analytical reports. So I do want to thank you for staying within your budget limits. And I don't know what impact that has on workman's comp and other issues, but, overall you are maintaining and staying under budget. So I do want to highlight that in terms of your leadership. But also, if there's anything we can do from a council standpoint to help you with that recruitment, I think we already have some things in place with these ad hoc public safety committee. Please let us know, Chief, but we do appreciate your efforts in staying on top of that, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
That concluded my presentation. Basically, revenues, we went over revenues, expenditures, the challenges with overtime, and then the salary savings.
Did you have a budget adjustment slide?
Yes.
Okay.
We have 4 adjustments.
Okay.
The major one being the Pension Stabilization Trust of $500,000. Then we had $17,400 that we added to the youth center for the final payment of the AC installation. $23,000 for a replacement of the phone system at City Hall. $47,200 increase in temporary salaries at the police department for, I think it's an investigator for background investigations to be able to hire more personnel. Bring in new staff.
To move those forward more quickly. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so at this point, I know one of the reasons were to bring this back quarterly and not to and not to, you know, appreciate the work that you've done in bringing this quarterly is do we have an opportunity, and maybe we'll tie this into to the ad hoc safety committee, public safety committee.
I think one of the things we want to do is, and we really appreciate this, because it's almost like having real-time numbers and
Right.
keeping on top of the budget, and that is
appreciate
just so important for us to be able to do. And whether or not Ms. Piedra, as our deputy city manager, acting city manager, if there's recommendations for further adjustments that you're willing to put forward to the council.
Yes, basically, I mean, as you pointed out, we have been meeting with our Public Safety Task Force, and as we look through these savings and obviously realizing the needs of our departments, one of the aspects that maybe I would like council to consider is if part of the recommendation when we presented the budget to you was to freeze 3 positions under the police department. And in light of the fact that, you know, we have some salary savings and we'll continue providing these quarterly reports, is perhaps consideration to unfreeze those positions and give those resources to the police department.
So that is a recommendation coming from the task force, and part of that too is driven by the fact that it is taking us so long to come up with the hire list and to get through background, and we're having so many folks, maybe, how do I say this, not make it through the qualification list. And the other thing is, and Ms. Brownlee shared these numbers with us, we're going to drill down a little bit farther. For every posting we used to put out there for a police officer position, we'd get hundreds of applicants. We used to. Now we get a fraction of that. And so taking all of this into consideration, the fact that it takes so long for us to find qualified personnel to fill those positions, is a recommendation coming from the task force that we unfreeze those, because there will continue to be salary savings because of the unfilled positions throughout the organization. And it's just, we think it's the right thing to do.
Well, I do appreciate that. I appreciate the work of both Councilmember Jackson and Mayor Pro Tem to be able to take
And
this
we had a
on.
pitch hitter
Edgar
at the last
Garcia
meeting.
participate. So I know this is under information item now, but I'd be
Can
hope.
we just give direction to staff to unfreeze those and move forward with recruitment? Okay.
Okay.
That would be what I would suggest.
Excellent. So before we move forward with that, does anybody have any supporting or opposing comments in regards to that recommendation?
No, I think it's in line with what the discussion's been at the task force level, and so I would also recommend that we move forward with that, with unfreezing those 3 spots.
Excellent.
But can that be done through a recommendation, or does it need a formal action by the council?
It can be done through a recommendation as part of your budget presentation.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
All right, so with that being said, I'm happy to report that we're giving direction to staff to unfreeze 3 of those positions that we initially voted to freeze, and those are now becoming available, and hopefully we can get those positions filled and increase our staffing when it comes to public safety. So very excited about that. Thanks again to Ms. Salcido for everything you've done, to our task force, and Ms. Piedra, I appreciate your recommendations when it comes to that. Any other comments for Ms. Salcido? Being that there's none, thank you very much. So we're going to move real quickly into our new business, and actually that's a presentation on my behalf. I believe I do have a public comment in regards to item number 12, and we do have a couple of appointments that need to be filled on our planning commission. I'm going to ask, I don't want to butcher your name, sir.
Can we just call him PJ?
PJ, is PJ okay? I'm going to ask you to go ahead and come on up. I know I have a public comment slip for you in regards to this item. Sir, would you like to address the council in regards to the appointment of the Planning Commission?
Yes, I would. Good evening, Mayor Cardenas and council members. My name is Pram Marok. I'm a resident of El Centro, California. I've lived in El Centro for about 2 years now. What I love most about this city is the small community atmosphere and caring nature of its residents. With my current role as a business consultant for 7-Eleven, I have the ability to build relationships, motivate groups with one goal in mind, to make El Centro a better city. There have been some great ideas from Vision 2050. I can help with Vision 2050 and make sure we implement revenue-generating projects with still keeping in mind the spirit of El Centro. I'm looking forward to serving this wonderful city and making it a great place to live for generations to come. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Excellent. With that being said, I do want to thank you for your comments, and we'll be making some appointments here shortly, but thank you for the introduction, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay, in regards to item number 12, there are 2 vacancies, and I'm hopeful my colleagues will be supportive of me considering the reappointment of Sergio Lopez. He has expressed to be reappointed on the Planning Commission, and then I'm also going to be making a recommendation for the gentleman that just spoke today. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to refer to you as PJ if that's okay, that PJ be considered as a new planning commissioner. I do have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Vegas Walker, second from Councilmember Jackson. We'll go ahead and vote, and then that carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 13.
Yay.
Yes, congratulations, sir. Thank you. And that's Miss Norma Villacaña, so she's our planning director.
She's your new best friend.
Yeah. In regards to item number 13, that's also an action item, and that's in regards to the appointment and discussion to the Library and Community Service Board. Did have a couple folks that would like to be considered. Let me just get to my notes real quick. And we actually have 2 scheduled appointments. I do have one gentleman that would like to be reconsidered, and that's Adrian Perez, and he would like to be reconsidered for reappointment.
Has his attendance been pretty good?
You know what,
Yes, yes, it has,
Okay.
yes.
okay, thank you, Ms. Piedra, that's very important. But I'm also going to be recommending that or Dr. Rich Ryan be considered as well. I think with the support and his expertise and comments and passion for library, especially in the middle of this feasibility and looking at capital projects, that my colleagues would be supportive of both the reappointment of Mr. Adrian Perez and Dr. Rich Ryan. Excellent. Being that I have a motion from Councilmember Silva, second from Councilmember Jackson, we'll go ahead and vote. And then that carries 5-0 as well. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and move down to, we can do 1 or 2 things, guys. We can either have 2 public comment slips, or we can take care of the successor agency to the redevelopment. Do you guys have any preference?
Why don't we do the
Public comments? Okay. Then, very well. We're going to go ahead and ask Ms. Van Flu to come on up. I know I chatted with her a little bit on Facebook and invited her to come. I'm going to ask is Mr. Campos here?
Did he give you his report, Mr. Hagan? So Cheryl, just so you know, we did give a preview of coming attractions to our Public Works Department to provide information specific to this item.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask Mr. Hagan, to be on standby. I'm probably going to ask you to come up right after that, Mr. Hagan. But Ms. Van Flu, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Cardenas and council persons, members. I'm Cheryl Von Flo. I've been a resident of El Centro for 29, 30 years in my home on the west side. And I became quite alarmed when my water bill went up like $60 a month come June, July, et cetera, And I monitor my water usage a lot because I don't want to pay the money, to be honest with you. And then, I know we were having the drought issues last year, so I was like way down. My grass was like barely green. And so I'm monitoring it. And so I called the city in July, just like on the Facebook chat with many people, and we're saying, something's wrong. So they came out and checked it. It's running fine. We've got the new meters in. The meters are now reading accurately. And I am not okay with that answer. Because how can a bill go from $137, because my bill used to be $100 before we went into the drought, $98, $105, right around there. After we came out of the drought, my bill was like $120, something like that. Now we look at the summer, $194, $204, up $60. So I'm not okay with the answer that the meters are reading accurately, and I'll just state something like this. The way I look at it, prior to the new meters, if the city of El Centro could run a budget providing the service of water for, let's say, $2 million, and you put new meters in, you should still be able to run the city's budget of $2 million for our water. So I'd like to see what's going on with the true money that's being collected from each of us, because $60 a month times 12 is $700 a year. It's a lot of money. So I do not support the notion of the report that the meters are reading more accurately. That it is not okay. The second item I want to share is I live on the backside of a park on Lotus Avenue. And you cannot believe how upsetting it is to me when I drive by at 10 o'clock at night and there's 3 or 4 sprinkler heads spewing more water than I use in a week, often. I recommend that you guys put somebody on park watch at night to go make sure that all of those sprinkler heads, not only on that corner where I live, but all these parks, that you guys aren't wasting water. Because that's part of the overall cost for our city to provide water to our city, and it's wasteful.
Right.
So,
I'm gonna, in regards to those 2 items, Ms. Van Flew, I'm gonna ask our Public Works Director to come on up, and you can actually have a seat, and we'll see what he has to say. I know Mayor Pro Tem had reached out, and so did I. And just to share, my water bill went up substantially as well, so I actually called and asked them to check to see if I didn't have any leaks. They told me that the meter was reading accurately as well. So I understand. We also, in regards to, and I just want to provide some very brief comments in regards to broken sprinkler heads. We have numerous people. We have Mr. Rodriguez in the audience who's very passionate about sharing broken sprinkler heads at our parks. So we do check that regularly. But I'm going to ask Mr. Hagan to come up. Yes,
I want to make one more comment, just so it's not just me and you, or you and I. And that's that one person on Facebook said, well, we are a business downtown. We're not doing laundry. We're not watering lawns, and their water bill tripled. So it's not, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm concerned about the citizens that don't have an extra $60 a month to pay the bill. I mean, I just go get another job or something, but there's people that can't afford that.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Van Flew. Let me hear from our Public Works Director, Mr. Hagan.
A year ago, when we brought this contract before you to replace all the meters and go to an automatic meter reading system, we realized that many of the meters, especially the residential meters, have been out there for many years, and I predicted that we'd have like a 7% increase because those old meters, the way they fell, when a meter, as it gets older, the gears and everything, as the water passes through it, it reads less than the correct amount. So as the older they get, the less it reads the correct amount. So when we installed the new meters, I predicted 7%. Well, staff just did a comparison of the month of September 2017 versus a year ago, September 2016. And overall, this is for all, it's about 9,000 residents, meters. The overall change was 9% average. So the prediction was pretty close. So what's happening now, when the contractor put the new meters in, the only place for error now is when they took the reading of the old meter, and they did take a photograph. So if there's people out there that think there is a mistake, and like the first month they had the new meter, it came in double or triple, then the next month it went back to something that was just a regular amount, I would say, yeah, let's check into that. You can call 760-377-4510, start with finance, then we'll go to the water plant and go back and look at the photo of the reading and make sure that nothing was transposed incorrectly.
Can I just address that point real quick?
Sure.
You know, I'll just be, from my perspective, I didn't have that option. So when I did call, my option was to, hey, we're going to go check for a leak. So if, for example, Ms. Van Flew wanted to maybe take it to the next level, what
Right.
would she ask specifically in terms of the request? What is there did they?
We did that, and I've had two bills since then that are still high. So it wasn't a one-time correction.
So your old meter was just reading incorrectly, is what happened.
But Terry, so this reminds me of a friend of mine who also was part of the Facebook discussion in which he claims that his bill doubled from $200 to $400.
Is that the downtown
No.
person? That was
No.
a resident.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot more than 9%.
That is.
Yeah. So
And, well, some meters were worn out more than the others when they replaced them. So it's one of those things. But the new meters, now we also have the other option too. If you want to have the meter pulled, and for us, we have a test set up at the Public Works Yard where we can run water through it and measure it and make sure it's correct. And I think I was asking Letitia what that cost was, and we think it's around $50. But if you want to take that step further, we can do that as well. And if it is incorrect, well, the $50 charge would be waived, but it being a brand-new meter and the fact that they only read low, the meter's probably fine.
Yeah. I can
Mine was higher as well, and I just blame Steve, so I didn't call the city.
Mine's
I
a little
just-
higher too. I don't know, probably about $30 more than on average normal.
Mine
I'm
did
in a
too.
development that's maybe not as older as your development
Certainly
too.
not as old as mine. My house was
Yeah,
built in like
see,
38,
yeah, so, I think the meter in my area is probably 20 years old, but yours could be 30 plus years old. So I think we're having this this is a citywide issue, right? As far as, because I've heard many people call me too, and I've seen a lot of the comments on Facebook. So it's definitely something that a lot of people are experiencing. If the explanation is that we had old meters and they weren't really measuring it correctly,
That's it.
I don't know if there's much we can do about that.
Well, I think a couple of things. I'd like to see us craft a message that gets inserted into the next water bill that goes out with everybody. We have the option to put an insert, not just print it on the bill, because people don't necessarily read that, but an actual insert that goes to all 9,000 people with an explanation as to what happened and why and the predictions and where we think this is going.
Okay.
But I think to Ms. Von Flu's other point, which I think is very valid, is if we are now going to be collecting X amount of money over, right, what we anticipated our revenue stream to be, is there an opportunity then for us to go back and take a look at either the next projected rate hike, which I think we've already built in, and/or can we reduce current fees that we're charging? Is that possible? Can we do a projection on, and I wouldn't want to do it yet based on 2 or 3 months, but I mean, if we're going to run 9% over, let's say we run 9% over, is that what we budgeted? Did we budget that we would see a 9% increase?
We built into our projections, we like to build the rate increases
Right,
per the rate
right,
study.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Right.
At this point in time, our rate study, the last rate increase was last fiscal year. We are going to
And
be.
how much was that?
I believe it was,
Because again, I think that this goes into the messaging.
It was very
Okay,
small.
but again, this goes into the messaging, so that if the overall average was a 9% increase.
but what it is
Right.
we are, Terry is.
And you have to figure into that we had the conservation going on a year ago too.
Prior, right. And we also had the meters installed right as we start the peak amount of.
3.4%.
Well,
Okay, but
The increase was 3.4% per the rate study from the previous year. Terry will be going out and for a consultant for a new rate study
right.
this year, which will take into consideration all these new
Okay.
issues.
You know, and I'm gonna have to
So-
go ahead.
So Terry, help me understand something. So our water and sewer funds are intended to be self-sufficient, correct? So all the revenues that we collect out of water and sewer are
Separate
intended
funds.
only to be used for water and sewer services. So they're kind of isolated and they're self-contained.
Correct.
So, so we base our operational budget based on anticipated revenues. And so if those revenues are coming in higher, then that would allow us to go back and reflect, kind of the same thing that Cheryl was saying, reflect back to see if there's opportunities for reductions, the reduction of rate for our citizens.
Yes.
Okay.
But is that something that we would do now, or we would factor that into the upcoming rate study?
That should be based on of the rate study, which is why the city will be going out for a new rate study.
Because I'm assuming that you're seeing a roughly a 9% increase this last month, but you need to have how many months to
You need
come up
some
with some kind of
history.
an average?
Yeah.
You got to have at least 3 to 4 months to have some kind of a realistic average of what that percentage is going to
Correct.
be.
This was just a real quick check we did here this past week to get an idea.
But what's a reasonable time frame for someone to do a rates? When is our next one, our next rate study scheduled for?
Well, we budgeted this year, right?
For this year?
So we're going ahead and have to go out to get a consultant to do it, and the process, we'll
So
bring it to
that'll
council.
be this year.
So yes, it will be done probably, I would say maybe 6 to 8 months.
And if a resident wishes to have their meter pulled and checked for accuracy, that option is available, and
Yes,
it
it
will
is.
cost around $50.
We'll have to go back and check the amount that's approved, but something like that, yes.
You know, just the scenario that Ms. Van Flew gave from her bill being about 130 to 200, I mean, it's about a 32% increase. So I know it's 3 times higher than the 9%. So I'm just curious, and I want to really be empathetic to that situation, but I mean, do you think that because she had the older meter that it would have that much of a variance, you believe?
Absolutely. I predicted 7%,
But I
and we're
guess
seeing 9.
kind of
But she's at 32%.
Yeah, so.
That's how the meters wear out, though. They just read low.
Because
They don't
she's
pick
in-
up the
she's in
lower
an older-
flows.
Older area. Her meters are older than, say, like in my area where I saw about a $30 increase on my bill, which is maybe about, I don't know, it's not that much more, I guess maybe 10% or a little less than 10%, but my development's only 15 years old.
Terry, do we have some consumers who saw a very modest increase, if any, at all? Or, I mean, or do we know?
Yes, the range was all over the place, up and down.
Okay. Do we have an explanation for the downtown business that saw a doubling of their rate? Tripling of their rate?
Was it more than 1 month, several months in a row?
I don't know, they just said it tripled, so.
Well, I would be concerned about the reading error then, when the meter first was installed. But if you have more than 1 month reading, like 2 or 3 months, and it's still high, then the meter was just old.
Well, let me, I don't want to drag, I do appreciate Ms. Van Flu's comments and everyone's comments, and I do want to make sure that we give you specific direction, and maybe one of my colleagues, or one of our colleagues can kind of summarize, what action would you want to see move forward? I heard rate study, I heard.
Well, the rate study was going to be done
Yeah, that's
regardless.
already a budgeted item.
Okay,
That's
but
a
in
done-
terms of, if I may, I'm sorry,
Sure.
in terms of the actual comparison, and are we going to be, are we okay with the actual comparison and the data that they're going to be comparing it to when they look at the rate study? Or are we going to look at the last 3 months, the last year?
Well, I think by the time they do the rate study, we're going to have 6 months under our belt.
Yes.
Okay.
And either we're still going to show a substantial increase citywide, or things are going to level out. People are going to be more cognizant of their water usage, and things will balance out, or it'll continue to be high. And I mean, I don't know, you've got to have some kind of point of reference, and I'm assuming at least 4 to 6 months to have some kind of an average to show where that is. You budgeted 7%, we're around 9% now, but it could end up being 6 or 5% in 6 months, or it could be 15%. I mean, we don't know.
True.
Terry, was that 7% estimate, was that based on just what other jurisdictions have experienced when they've moved to the more sophisticated, newer meters? Is that where you came up
I
with
had
that?
basically done a literature research of what other cities had done, and looked at the age of our meters, the average age, and then basically made an educated guesstimate.
I think we probably could have done a better job. I mean, hindsight
Hindsight.
now, but we probably could have done a better job in a preview of coming attractions, by the way. Old meters, not as accurate, so you can anticipate that this is what's going to happen. Couple that with, because if we look at the 7% that you thought it was going to increase, plus the 3.4% rate increase, that gets us over the 9% average, so.
Right.
Then maybe, so I'm hearing that a rate study is forthcoming. I'm also hearing that we're looking at potentially putting out some communication or some talking points in our bill. And can you share a little bit about what that context would be in terms of what we can put in there and letting our citizens know about our customers know?
Yes, we'll put a flyer inside the bill, and then we're also talking about doing a press release, including a phone number to call.
Right.
And an explanation that, you know, if you have several months where it's much higher, it's probably what you're using, and you had an old meter before, or if you had that 1 month spike and then it went back down, then it might be a reading error by the contractor. So we'll explain that as well.
Maybe there'll be an in-depth article in tomorrow's newspaper.
So I mean, Spectrum can help us with the press release and right, and then internally we can work on the bill insert so that information is shared. We can also get information posted on our webpage.
I think also, to the point that you were speaking about the option of testing meters and things like that, I think those options should be clearly stated so that a citizen might say, hey, I'll pay the $50 because I don't think this is right. But if they don't know that that's an option, I think we need to make sure that that's
Yes.
a bullet point on that flyer so people know.
Yes.
Ms. Van Flew.
I want to make a couple more comments.
You know what, before I ask Mr. Hagan to step down real quick, Mr. Hagan, do you know where the city of El Centro ranks in terms of our water rates and other cities? I know Imperial has had increased tremendously in their water rates, and they're gonna increase them again.
Yes.
Do you know kind of where we're ranking as far as our water rates in regards to municipality and the other 7 cities in our county?
I would have to
Ballpark?
research that. I think we're
I think we're in the
probably
bottom
right in
third.
the middle.
No, I think we're closer to the bottom third.
The bottom third in terms of we have probably cheaper water rates than other municipalities.
Yeah, and
Likely.
I think that we've done a remarkable job. I think where other cities are really going to start to feel some pain is the fact that we've already built capacity, that
Yeah.
we're not going to have to take a look at building.
That's
So
one of
the rate
reasons
study.
Imperial's
Right.
increasing.
Well, exactly. And the problem is you don't know what kind of capital improvements and what they're going to cost in some of these other jurisdictions. And the fact that we have capacity,
Ready.
our rates are going to go up, but they're not going to go up as dramatically.
Correct.
In terms of, I just want to get from our colleagues here, do you think it'd be important to share that with the community, that maybe our rates are traditionally
All
less?
of that will come out with the rate study. I mean, if you wanted to wait that long. I think we could wait until Imperial finishes raising theirs, and then we could really show what it looks like.
Or maybe when the in-depth article comes out in the paper, there might be a comparison with the other cities.
Yeah, I believe we can collect that information and put it in the flyer, compare us with the other cities in the
Imperial
county.
just published it as part of their agenda packet, I think.
All right, so do you have enough direction?
Yes, I do.
And actually, before Ms. Van Flu's comment, her other comment in regards to broken sprinkler heads in parks, I know we used to have 2 shifts during the drought, and we had, our water police out there. What's the best, number one, what would be the best way to report that? Number 2, are we proactively checking? Oh, I guess that kind of falls also with Parks and Recs and Chris,
It does.
Mr. Legakis, but,
We can monitor that.
okay, but let me ask you this, are we doing it now, or?
Well, we have our monitors that are actually during the evening hours, so we'll make sure that, we tell them to be on the lookout for that. So I made a note of it.
Okay, so specifically
In
near
our,
the
any
notice?
park or any other area that we maintain.
Okay, thank you,
And
Mr. Hagan.
I think the other thing too with the broken sprinklers and anything that needs to be addressed in the city, go to our website and we have the reporting mechanism on the website. I've used it myself on street lights and something else, a stop sign that was down, just because I wanted to see how well it worked, and it does, it works. So if you go on there, you can do it with your name and your address and a phone number, and city staff will call you back within the day or so and let you know it's been addressed, or you can do it totally anonymously, it's up to you. But I think, everybody should know about the website, because I think it's something that doesn't get utilized as much as it should, but it's a good way to get information directly to our staff.
Ms. Van Flu.
Okay, so I want to follow up to what he was talking about. One of the pieces is he said he predicted a 7% increase, and it looks like a 9%. And then you're talking about a rate study. So when you're comparing from summer to November to December and January, sure, it's going to look closer to 7 and 9. So we need, you need to compare year to year with what the usage is, because seasonally we use our water differently.
Oh, yeah, and that's done.
Yeah, they do
And-
Yeah,
that.
the rate study is a multi-year.
Right.
And then you tie in your capital projects and.
And so, and I was, now that I remember, my first time here, which was the last time, I was here because the water rates were gonna go up.
Right.
So I guess that's what rings my bell, right? But I want to also go back to, thank you for rewording it. If it takes $2 million to run the water department, then if we're using the same water, which is basically the mechanisms are recording it differently, we need to look at a rate adjustment that is accordingly.
But I think that, and this is probably something, Mr. Hagan, that we should consider including, because I think that this is something that people miss. The actual cost of the water is a fraction of the overall cost to run the department.
No, I know that.
Right.
I know
So-
that. But whatever it costs to run the water service department, let it be. But I should not be contributing money so it looks like a profit. You know, if.
Yeah,
my-
and I think
you
that-
know, going back to
right.
my water rates went up by $60, that was more than that because actually the sewer and all that was what do you call it? Like what'd you call it? It's a line item, and so actually my water rate probably doubled. The water itself probably doubled when that $60 was added on. Because I'm paying for sewer and whatever else on that bill. So anyway, I just want to make those points because I'm not happy with paying $200.
I understand.
I'm just not okay with that. I'm on a corner, I have 3 neighbors that have ground as yards now. And it's despicable to think I live in a beautiful neighborhood, a beautiful city, and we've got people opting to have no green grass or plants.
Well, again, I do appreciate Ms. Van Fleet
Thank
for you
you.
coming here, but we are going to be crunching some numbers and some information. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this last public comment, and then we're going to move into that successor agency and get you guys all squared away. I believe we have Mr. Brent here, and again, appreciate your patience, sir. And
All interesting stuff.
yeah, go right ahead, sir.
Again, my name is Brent with Y-Green Energy Fund. I'm manager of government relations for Southern California for Y-Green. Y-Green is a PACE program administrator. PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. This is state-level legislation that was approved in California in 2008, and now is spreading across the country. It's about 34, approved in 34 other states, and then also we are operating in Florida and just opened up in Missouri. It was intended to fund energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy projects, solar and water. And it's really taken off exponentially in the last just 2 years, even though it's been available since 2010. It's taken that while to get going. Y-Green came a little bit later onto the scene. We're actually operating under the second PACE enabling legislation through Sacramento, SB 555, in 2010. We're privately held and privately funded, and we're leading in commercial in California, and the runner-up to the more and probably popular program called the HERO program, which has been around a little bit longer, and it actually is currently available in the city. We just actually surpassed $1 billion in funding, and we're continuing to grow, so we're doing well. We are available in Florida, like I said, and I'm happy to report that we'll be helping to rebuild parts of Florida because we can do hurricane retrofits, as well as we're now available, under SB 55, we can also do seismic retrofits, which is becoming a greater and greater concern. As far as surrounding communities, we're approved by the county, so we're in your unincorporated areas already about 2 years ago, I think July of 2015. In San Diego, we're available in I think every city but one, and done about $130 million in projects there. In Coachella Valley, we've done about $45 million there. It's a unique program in this public-private relationship because it's we're funding home improvements and commercial improvements, but now it's got this lens of local lens of looking at it because you have to put a rubber stamp on it. So in order to offer our version of this financing, we have to be approved by a resolution from the council. Some interesting points about this public-private relationship, because it has created a new dynamic in that case. There has been additional consumer protections. Last year, Governor signed AB 2693, which has standardized consumer disclosures. Prior to that, there was individual programs had their own consumer protection policies in place. So, and then this current legislative session actually had 3 additional pieces of legislation as well. So it's even taken it into farther. So here's the main differences. For home improvements, you can still obviously pay in cash, get a credit card, spend time to get home equity loan or line of credit. But the difference is with PACE, there's an umbrella of consumer protections because we have those consistent disclosures now. We now have to do a confirmation call recorded to make sure that they understand the program. This is important because now we're not as reliant on that individual consultant who's been trained by one of our people to be there at the kitchen table explaining the program. There's an outside third party making sure they understand it, and also we have Spanish speakers available as well if we need to speak to them in Spanish. Second of all, there's contract review. We're looking at the contract between the homeowner and the property owner, doing some monitoring of the project scope and also monitoring some of the pricing, right, which is a good thing. Permits are another big thing. Unpermitted projects are sometimes a problem for cities, and we require permits before that is funded as documentation. And then finally, a certificate of completion from the property owner as well. So these contractors that we do business with are incentivized to do a good job and take care of the customer because they don't get paid for that job until the end, right? So I'm asking today that Y-Green be considered to be operating in your city. Again, we're already available in many of the surrounding communities, and we do provide some differences, and that's currently, I believe you guys have 2 programs, the California First and the Hero program operating today, and I think we can add some value. Potentially on the agricultural side of things too, with solar and wind power, maybe even potentially for water well usage as well. So thank you for your time.
Just,
And if you have any questions,
I'm going to go
I'll
back
be
to
happy
staff,
to
but to consider another party, what would be the process, or what is the platform for that?
But I think Ms. Villacana and Ms. Piedra can probably chime in here as well, but it's my understanding that ICTC has entered into a relationship with WRCOG, Western Riverside Council of Governments, to operate the HERO program. And they're kind of the tracking mechanism for us. One of the reasons it's structured that way is because then WRCOG actually bears the liability if something goes wrong. And so, I mean, there have been a lot of enhancements this past year with regard to the new legislation. But even still, there's that level of protection with WRCOG. So in terms of adding YGen to the list.
Which is energy backwards, by the way.
There we go. I'm not sure of the mechanics of that.
So basically, you may recall that it's probably been maybe 3 years or 4 years that we, as a council or as a city, approved a resolution to establish a HERO program that was basically, at the recommendation of ICTC.
Right.
Then after that, we've been getting multiple requests for these PACE-related programs. And so one of the things that we did as cities, because all of our cities are being approached by different representatives from agencies, we actually outreach to the League of Cities. And so they, in turn, provided also some recommendations as to an open PACE program, which we currently also have in addition to the HERO program. So that includes 4 providers. Now, at our ICTC meeting we had last week, it was really interesting because we were talking about the performance of the PACE program, and one of the things that was shared by the county was that they're having some issues right now with the property taxes and how individuals, and we're going to get more information, but how basically the county right now at this point is really looking at how the PACE programs are being operated. From what they shared is some of the property taxes are basically doubling, if not tripling, with some of the homeowners. So one of the things that we looked at, and obviously, as you know, ICTC has many city representatives there, is to kind of take a step back and look at how the PACE programs are operating. As the gentleman pointed out, in order to establish a program in your community, you do need a resolution. But as staff, we would recommend that we kind of look at, well, what is really happening with those property taxes and allow the county an opportunity to provide that information to us. We do have the product available, and as you know, I mean, we keep a close look at it because we have received concerns, even from some of the residents as to the performance and how maybe certain parameters of that program is misunderstood by, some of the participants. So But, you know, I have met personally with the gentleman, and we talked about the program. But again, just because, you know, some of the issues that are out there, we're very cautious. A lot of times what happens when, you know, the community sees that cities are supporting these resolutions, they kind of tend to feel that maybe, you know, we're endorsing those programs or encouraging them to participate, even though obviously there are programs that are standalone programs, but we're just, you know, cautious as to what we're advancing.
Well, and I think council will remember that there were a couple of lawsuits that were recently litigated with regard to the whole PACE program. And again, I think that some of the legislation that was just enacted is really in response to things like the homeowners not truly understanding what was going to happen as a result of that. I would feel really comfortable if we could get additional information, let ICTC move forward with their evaluation of the PACE program, and then revisit adding additional providers, say, in the January timeline. Marcella, would that give you enough time to?
We can, and if not, we can report back, because I know that, you know, ICTC was very interested, of course, along with the other cities, on what's going on with the county, and they were going to provide that information to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone else okay with that suggestion? Okay.
The main difference for us is our joint powers authority, and this is why we're a little bit late on the scene. We went through a statewide judicial validation through Golden State Financial Authority in August of 2015. So a lot of this adoption of PACE through HERO program and their JPA, WR-COG, happened prior to that. So in order to join our version through the SB 555 version, you would become a associate member of Golden State Financial Authority. So then, as you were saying, all the legal ease, you know, go up through WAGRing, through GSFA, and they're solely responsible.
So let's make sure that Ms. Piedra has all of your contact information, so we can get this teed up, so that if it works out that it's going to be a win-win for both of us, we can just.
Yeah, and I guess I would add, you would look at the paperwork that you would sign tonight if you got a PACE loan. Everything is disclosure. Now it's going to be a call, which we were already doing, but is going to be added across the board, right? On average, our loan for WAGRing, I think this is probably pretty close to the industry, on a per unit basis is probably between $20,000 and $25,000. So if those people didn't really understand, depending on how they repay their property taxes, I would say about 70% of people repay it through their mortgage impounds. You know, we don't want them to be surprised, but that is all disclosed very well. So they need to obviously read their paperwork.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
a lot.
Appreciate your
Okay.
patience.
No problem.
Thank you. At this point, yes.
I have a document with some of the impacts we have here and my contact information.
All right, you can go ahead and leave it with our clerk. At this point in time, we're going to go ahead and adjourn as a city council and come back as an accessor agency to the redevelopment agency. So I don't believe I need a motion to do that, or do I? No? Being that I don't, we're going to go ahead and take a look at item number 15. Again, I appreciate your patience from Mr. Merrill and Mr. Thomas. So we are going to go ahead and take a look at item number 15, and that is the resolution in regards to the successor agency of the redevelopment agency of the city of El Centro, authorizing the execution of the certificate of completion for the Wake Avenue Auto Plaza project and release agreement, authorizing related actions. So I'm going to ask Ms. Piedra to go ahead and give an overview on that, and then maybe ask for some comments from our direct auto folks. Yes,
Absolutely. Yes. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, or actually members of the successor agency. Very pleased to report on this project that I have to tell you was probably one of the last ones we did with redevelopment. And this project is actually a classic example of how redevelopment really benefited our communities. We have, as included in your staff report, a business owner, obviously, and you know the history of them. They've been with us in our business community, as part of our business community for many years. And so back in 2009, actually, they approached our now dissolved redevelopment agency about the possibility of assisting them with their project, which consisted of building a new dealership for Honda Hyundai. They were having a gap in their project, and primarily being because if you are acquainted with their site, there was a drain that was basically north of their site, which now serves as a retention basin. And so they needed assistance in providing, in basically undergrounding that canal. So what we considered at the time was assisting them with approximately $600,000 to underground that canal. Their investment for this project was approximately $5.8 million in private investment. So as you can see, the leverage that we received as a public agency was pretty significant. The main elements of, obviously at the time, what we entered when we considered development agreements with the redevelopment agency was what is called as an owner participation agreement. And so in that owner participation agreement, there were certain milestones that had to be met by that particular developer. The main ones being, of course, in this case, was the job creation and also the generation of sales. The project has basically been operating for 6 years. We entered into that agreement back in January 28th of 2010. The project, as you see, has been completed. You know, they've been operating for 6 years. In terms of job creation, they were required to maintain the 30 current jobs that they had, but they also were required to employ 20 new full-time jobs with the best effort of hiring El Centro residents. And obviously the owners of the business are here, and I'm sure they will provide certain comments. But also is reflected in your staff report, over a period of 10 years, they were to generate, as a result of these 2 new dealerships, approximately $2.8 million. And there's no doubt that, you know, they will achieve that. As a matter of fact, they're getting very close to it. Also part of this agreement was that they needed to provide sales taxes at least equivalent to the amount of the redevelopment assistance, which was about approximately $600,000. And again, they have achieved that in the past 6 years. They received their certificate of occupancy in December of 2011 and have been performing ever since. So we are here before you to ask for consideration to file the necessary certificate of completion, given that the project is completed, and also to file complete the necessary documents to basically relieve them of this obligation that they had with the former redevelopment agency. So if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
I just wanted to share a quick comment. I did ask staff to expedite that, and I want to thank Ms. Piedra for putting this on the agenda for October 17th. So I do thank you. And if we are successful in passing this resolution, do you think all the paperwork would be completed by the 31st?
I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do that. Obviously, the main action is for you to adopt that resolution, giving us the ability to do that certificate of completion and then, you know, draft the necessary documents, which, you know, with the assistance of our city attorney, we can make sure to work, you know, with that deadline.
If Mr. Mayor, would you like to share a little bit about maybe some your success and maybe what's upcoming in the near future?
Hello, everybody. I haven't been over here to the new building in quite a while. Boy, this place looks fantastic. Anyway, Bill and I have been out here. Bill's been here since 1988. I've been here since '98. Mr. Thomas, I think, wanted to maybe retire a little bit, so he came to me at the beginning of the year and asked me to try to find some ways to either buy him out or find a way that we could take him out. So in my searches, I found a group of people from Canada that were really interested in border towns, really interested in El Centro, Mexicali, El Centro being the center. So, you know, they own a bank up in Canada. They have 5,000 lease returns a year coming through. They want to, you know, really build this business up in, you know, El Centro. El Centro, as you know, is probably 3 or 4 hours drive time with about 30 million people, you know, within 3 or 4 hours. Phoenix, Vegas, LA, Tucson, San Diego. So they really want to make this their hub. So I brought these partnerships on, this group on, if you will. And I'd like to talk to you about, you know, hopefully getting in front of you guys maybe in January. They can do a presentation, tell you who they are. You know, they're $1 billion company. They're a huge employer of 1,000 employees. They've retained all of my people. They're going to be taking over my business and Bill's business, and they're buying all the real estate. But this is one of the little things that was on title that we needed to get cleaned up.
Clean it up.
But I'm really excited. I'm going to be, as I told Alex, I'm going to be there with them through the transition. And, you know, obviously we have a lot of real estate down here. Bill and I are going to probably do some development down here. Probably me more as the front point, and, you know, Bill maybe once a month. But it's really an exciting company, Kaizen Automotive Group. If you want to Google them, Kaizen Automotive, but they will be now known as Honda of Imperial Valley, Hyundai of Imperial Valley, and GM of Imperial Valley. So I'd love to get them out here to talk to you guys. Maybe you have the family, the father. It's all family. It's really a unique corporation. So all, the children, the father, the children, their wives, husbands, that makes up their business. So anyway, really exciting things for the community. Alex had a chance to meet him in my office a few weeks back, and as you can see, I mean, they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to take what I've done here to another level for this community in this city. We did 91 million in sales last year. We're tracking 90 million this year. I will bet you they're 125 to 150 million in sales. And you know what that'll do to the bottom line for this city and help you guys with your budgets.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with my colleagues. I did get to meet them, down to earth guys, super intelligent. Gave them a bit of a background on our city and some of the exciting things. But this is going to be a major game changer for our city, and I'm glad.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I really do. This is the next move. Don't be surprised if they don't turn around and buy El Centro Motors, maybe other places. I'm just saying they're very aggressive, and they have 4 dealerships in Canada, and I know they would be looking to maybe acquire that. But that would be all good. Maybe they will build that thing up and help get everybody to buy cars in El Centro.
Just real quick, in 2010, Direct Auto had $44 million in sales, and as Dave stated, in 2016, 91 million.
Wow.
Yeah, 91 million. So it's gone astronomical, and it's been that Honda Hyundai combo at that location. In fact, I'll tell you, Honda and Hyundai represents 65% of our total sales right now.
Wow.
Hondas, we're selling over 100 Hondas a month. And back in the day, it was 25, to give you an example. So it's been, that was the real attractive piece for these people as well. Plus, they're big GM dealers. And if you're looking for diesel trucks, they're going to bring a lot of them down here, which we've never been able to get. The farmers will love it. 4x4 diesel trucks, you just don't get them here in California. They go to snowbird-type places.
Let me just make sure I don't have any other comments from my colleagues. Anything pretty amazing deal. All right. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to accept the resolution, resolution number SA 17-01. And I've already read that. And we actually have a motion from Councilmember Garcia, a second from Councilmember Jackson. We'll go ahead and vote. And that is adopted 5-0. Congratulations. Enjoy your retirement. And yeah, bring them back to our council.
I'm going to be here.
We'd
By the
love
way,
to
I
meet
want
him.
to give
Yes.
Marcel a special, gratitude. She has been on this project for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because this was 2009, but we were talking about it 2007.
Yeah.
So, great staff.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
guys. Thank you for your patience.
So just. No, good.
Before I go, I'd like to thank Marcel. She really helped us.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Terry, your department's doing a good job. What I suggest is you put the old meters back in.
The hard water down here is so tough, and that calcium deposits probably fried all those meters, and that's why they weren't reading properly. That's probably a big problem. Now the new meters are more efficient.
Excellent.
I'm sure that's what it is.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
people.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we're just getting all of this redevelopment agency stuff done. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and Assemblymember Jim Frazier, who authored SB1, the transportation bill, announced he's bringing back redevelopment in January.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens.
Excellent. All right. We're going to go ahead and real quickly combine our task force reports and any other ad hoc committee reports. So what do you think, Mr. Councilmember Jackson? You want to lead us off?
Sure. Attended the JPIA conference in Santa Barbara on behalf of the city. Good conference, and they had one presentation about medical marijuana and the liabilities to cities and everything, and I'll get that to you, Terry. But they had a lively discussion about everything from drug testing, liabilities to cities, employees, on and on and on. So I thought that was, and it was well attended, and everybody seemed to be pretty interested in that. That's kind of a hot topic, I think, across the board with most things coming up. Attended, and while I was gone, Missed the task force meeting, but I want to thank Edward for stepping in for me and sitting in with Cheryl on that. Attended the Valley Pride event downtown. Incredible participation. They had over 60 vendors. Very well attended. They had a drag show event the night before at Rocky's down at Denny's that I stopped in on. Again, I think they surpassed the attendance that they thought. They had over 150 people there. Probably could have had a lot more, standing room only. Ducks Unlimited event that I attended with Edgar. He invited me to attend on that, and another good local event that's been going on for many years. The ribbon cutting event for downtown, for our downtown lighting, long time coming, and I think everybody was very excited about that. Attended the Kiwanis installation for Tim Blankenship, for our new president for Kiwanis. El Centro Patriotic Playing meeting that we had last week. We'll have another one this upcoming Saturday, and there'll be some news to come on a Veterans Day event for El Centro. Attended the fire prevention kickoff at Fire Station 3. As always, very well attended. Kids were having a great time at that event. And also want to say that I was very pleased to read that, and I don't know if I've said this all since he's been our governor, but I was very pleased to see that he vetoed 469? No,
49, right?
49.
649.
59.
Oh,
9.
15.
Yeah.
One of those numbers.
Anyways, the cell tower
Yeah.
bill, which
That was huge.
I did not see coming. I really did not think he was going to do that. But it was good to see, and it's a win for cities and counties, and a little notch in local control, which I don't know, we've had an opportunity to celebrate a win like that in a long time.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see that happen. So that was it.
Councilmember Silva?
Just a reminder to council that the event that we mentioned, that Consul mentioned Friday, and I know Friday's a busy day. There's all kinds of stuff going on, but I hope you can make some time to attend that folklorico group Friday, and then the following Friday on the 27th at the Old Post Office Pavilion. I think it's going to be an amazing night.
Excellent. Mayor Pro Tem?
So it's been really busy, but I just want to kind of focus on, and Terry, you're going to have to get out your to-do list here, I'm afraid. One of the things that I noticed as I was driving up and back to Lake Arrowhead for our conference is the decorative signage on Interstate 10, where it has the city names, is standalone decorative on both sides. So far, what we have on Dogwood, we have I'm going to call it an Amber Alert electric sign, and we've got a mileage sign already. And so I don't know if Caltrans' plan is to move those signs when our decorative signs go up, or if it's just going to look horrible with the mileage, the amber sign, and then our tiny little sign that we're paying for the tune of, what was it, $500,000. So could you make sure that Caltrans is not intending to leave that signage up there, that we get the benefit of the I-10 stuff?
Oh, I know. I see it all the time. It's
Right?
ridiculous. The Jefferson overpass was completed
Yeah,
months and months and months ahead of schedule
yes,
at the size of about 10 times the size of our
right.
bridge, and has all the amenities. It's got the big letters of Indio on both
Beautiful.
sides.
Right.
It's massive, and they were way ahead of schedule. And we got delay after delay, and we got this song and dance about how we couldn't have El Centro up there, and we couldn't have all this, and we
Right.
settled for these weird-looking Ocotillo things. And I mean, it's just so disturbing that
Yeah.
we are still treated like the stepchild,
yeah,
that we don't
and-
get the same things that Riverside County has, and every one of their bridges has that.
Right. Oh, yeah, I saw that today as I was coming back home. And Terry, I have an ICTC meeting next Wednesday, and Caltrans will be in the house. And so help me, I need to have an answer that they say that they are going to take those down.
Hey, if
The
Desert
other-
Hot Springs can have a sign on an overpass, why can't
Why
why
can't
can't
we?
El Centro?
Okay. Here was an interesting one. So I got a phone call from a person that was cited by our code enforcement officer for using manure on their lawn to, what is it we're planting now? Ryegrass?
Overseed?
Okay, to seed the grass, right? Well, apparently, we have an ordinance that was adopted in 1962, Ordinance 61-25. So this is Section 13-76, mulching or mixing required when used on soil. It shall be unlawful for any person to use or apply manure upon the surface of the ground without mulching or mixing the same in with the soil. So I think we need to revisit that, because if that was adopted in 1962, that was before Lowe's and Home Depot and Imperial Stores and everybody else was selling the bags of stuff that you put on your lawn. So they actually got cited by our code enforcement agency for this.
How big of a fine is that?
I don't know, but what was hilarious, okay,
How much?
so then I get home and I'm listening to the
Sorry, I was trying to get that, how much was it?
$100.
Oh,
Please tell me they're not gonna have to pay that.
Why don't you send us a citation tomorrow? Ask them to send it.
Okay, because then, this is hilarious, I get home, I'm checking my voicemail messages after being out of town for a couple days. The person that turned in this person called to complain. So I got both the person that was cited and the person that was complaining calling me.
Oh my gosh.
So we're gonna take care of this, right? Okay, so that's on somebody's to-do list. Okay. Norma, this is probably in your bailiwick. So I just got back from the UCLA 27th Annual Lake Arrowhead Symposium, and the focus was on global climate change, local growing pains, and a couple of things that came out of this conference, which was phenomenal. VMT, as we're transitioning away from levels of service, LOS, to VMT, right? City of Pasadena in particular has made that pretty successful. And I think that we really need to look at it, because when you look at level of service and impacts caused by development, essentially what we're doing is we're driving sprawl outward. And unfortunately, it's the last person in that triggers that level of service and the payment. So if we can maybe get an update on how we can make that transition would be great. We also know that we're going to be required to do a general plan update. Is there a time frame on when that's going to have to occur? Okay. So the state, I guess, is getting ready to issue their 2017 guidelines or update for general plan guideline updates. The new chapters that are going to be required as part of our general plan include public engagement, healthy communities, climate change, economic development, and social equity / resilience. So I had a chance to talk with Ms. Viacania just before the meeting, and we're thinking that the cost to update our general plan is going to be $100,000.
So maybe if we keep the ordinance with the manure,
yeah.
and we keep
That-
citing people, we could
For
pay for
that,
the
we can
general
pay
plan
for that.
amendment.
Yeah,
And with the increased water,
yeah. I think, okay. The,
was it $60? What's 60 times 9,000?
So the last thing I want to report on, I'm not going to go into where I've been, what I've done. I just want to say, I did have a call today with Rob Hansen, and thank you, Marcella, for getting that information to me. Mr. Hansen's the CEO for Mukulele. Department of Transportation has again issued its notification with regard to the EAS services that are going to be recommended for termination. Imperial, El Centro / Imperial, is getting a waiver, and they've told us that we're getting a waiver, but the person that used to track all of the information for us with Mukulele is no longer there. And so we're just trying to reestablish that connection as to who's tracking passenger counts, who's tracking the subsidy, and if we're going to respond to the DOT waiver, we have to do it by Friday.
Wow.
So we're trying to get Mukulele engaged
Are
to make sure that
employments
happens.
still, are they good?
Yeah, we're doing great. I think we're averaging, our minimum is 15, is 10, and I think we're close to 15.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, the planes are doing really well. I think the change from Burbank to LAX has really opened up the opportunities for folks to make that happen, so.
All right, very well. Councilmember Garcia?
Yes, it was a busy couple of weeks. On the 5th, I attended the wine tasting festival at Cheval Farms for CASA.
Oh, that's
right,
Excellent.
It was a very, very well-attended event, and our mayor was there representing, wearing his other hat as the director of CASA, and it's great to see the community come out and raise funds for an organization that important. The following night, I attended the city championship. Great performance by Southwest High School, beating Centro. It was good to see. That was also very, very well attended. I know they stopped selling tickets at Central probably early in the afternoon. So it was very, very well attended. The following evening, I attended the Boys and Girls Club annual auction at the Stockman's Club.
Buy anything?
No. My wife was outbid several times, but
Oh.
that was a very, very nice event, and they also raised a significant amount of money for the Boys and Girls Club. Later that evening, I attended a charity concert for the erection of a memorial stage for former Brawley City Councilman Miguel Miranda. That event was sold out. They had to actually add extra tables, and that was a very, very well-attended event.
Where was that at?
And that was at the Salico Packing Shed in Brawley. Yeah, and they really used the space well.
Nice.
Then on the 10th, I attended the installation dinner for the new Kiwanis president, El Centro resident Tim Blankenship. That was a very nice event. I was
You're a
there-
Rotarian, though, right?
I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. I can still recognize the other service clubs. That was a very, very good event. We had some comedy from Gil. that was unexpected, but it sure livened up the evening. On the 12th, I attended the Joint Chamber Mixer at SDSU Imperial Valley in Calexico. That was a very, very nice event. They really opened up the art gallery there, and everybody was having a good time. It was actually my first time on campus, and it was very, very nice to see that they put it right in the heart of campus. You know, we got to see all the kids basically still taking their classes, and the atmosphere was just very, very, very nice. On the 14th, I attended Ducks Unlimited, and I did invite my colleagues, Councilmember Jackson and Cardenas. I believe Councilmember Jackson won a raffle prize, so
Uh-oh.
that was a good time. There were lots of people
Exercising my
there.
Second Amendment rights to have another firearm.
But that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Very, very busy. I'll make mine real short. Number one, Councilmember Jackson, when he was mayor, started a tradition on doing the coin flip for the city championship. So I'd ask our incoming mayor to make sure to put that date on the calendar. It's amazing. You can get out there, flip the coin, be on the sidelines. It's kind of tough to pick a side, but very glad that he pioneered that. But also wanted to quickly share, I did participate in a site visit. Want to thank Ms. Piedra for allowing me to participate on a site visit. We're a finalist in the grant to supplement some monies for Plank Park Road, another $648,000. And what I just want to briefly share that the folks from the state were very impressed with our grant writing capabilities. So I want to thank Ms. Norma Villacana, Adriana, and their staff for just putting a nice, concise grant, and they were very complimentary towards staff. So thank you, and hopefully we'll get that money. Project Eagle, want to thank Betsy, Marcella. We had two rock stars there, Ms. Villacana again and Abraham Campos, and sitting in this room kind of going over some technical data, and they just shine. Very, very happy in how well you represented the city, and that's kind of moving along pretty well. So hopefully we'll hear something soon. Attended the Centinela Citizens Advisory Committee. There's a lot of construction happening at Centinela. They're upgrading the medical facilities anywhere north of $5 million. But the interesting thing that they're doing at the prison now is they're doing drone drops. So they're flying drones from the desert over the fence and dropping socks with drugs.
Oh,
So they've had a few incidents like that. And so they're addressing it, maybe
my
get the
goodness.
NAF involved, start shooting down those drones, so. And then the last thing, well, downtown lighting, but the last thing is presented a certificate of recognition to American Honda. NIPM had it there. NIPM had their board of directors meeting here. Pat did an incredible job. We presented him with the certificate, and actually Pat said I can share this, so I apologize. But American Honda has donated 2 15-passenger vans to the city of El Centro. So that's pretty amazing stuff. These are the vans that are going to be in the Rose Parade. So after the Rose Parade, we are going to have 2 brand-new 15-passenger vans that's specifically for NIPM, and that is just because of Pat's great job and the city's job of 40 years of NIPM service here. So again, very excited about that. Very pleased with our staff. You guys do an amazing job. Every one of you guys, thank you so much for making our job so much more easier. So with that being said, we do have to adjourn into closed session. I'm very, very sorry, but I do want to update you guys on some of the things that are coming down the pike. All right, so at this point, we'll go ahead and stand adjourned when we move it into closed
And
session.
you will be adjourning the meeting from closed session to 8:30 on October 23rd.
Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. All right, with that being said, we stand adjourned.
Are we staying here?
Or we could do here.